Hello guys, welcome back to Max Reaction. How are you doing today? It's Sunday, it's gloomy outside, so what better than to react to some videos. And this first video I'm going to react today is definitely a requested video. One of my subscribers have been requesting it several times. So let's go ahead and get this. This is the first time I'm reacting to this channel, and it's called Overly Sarcastic Productions. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but let's check it out. Let's give the channel some love. And he specifically requested history summarized Alexander the Great. So I don't know if you know anything about Alexander the Great. I know a little bit, so let's learn, let's react, let's see what it's about. I'm sure it's good because my subscribers always points me in the right direction, always. So let's react together right now.
In the half-century following the Peloponnesian War, Greece wasn't really doing so hot.
Really?
Athens' once mighty maritime empire had been rendered moot, and its continued relevance was primarily, if not entirely, owed to its lasting dedication to culture, art, and philosophy. Sparta's population, which was never all that large in the first place, steadily dwindled through the 4th century as its military similarly deteriorated. Thebes, who has a particularly humorous episode in the 4th century that I've covered elsewhere, had scarcely a decade of military dominance to its name. Greece was effectively the passed-out drunk guy on a couch at a house party. The forehead was tempting any and all would-be knob artists to uncap their finest permanent.
What's going to happen to Greece?
It wasn't long before Philip II of Macedon hoisted his proverbial marker and began drawing plans. For a little background, Philip spent most of his childhood in Thebes during the time of the awesome general Epaminondas. While there, he learned a few things that would become absolutely invaluable to his subsequent military success.
Gotta have that warfare.
Using specific units of elite troops, which was pretty much unheard of in the Greek world.
Right.
He also learned how effective it could be to concentrate effort on a specific part of an enemy's line in order to disrupt and or break them. For those of you familiar with
these are good warfare.
This is textbook thieving tactics. Two of Philip's big innovations were the oblique attack, which we'll see more of later, and his integration of companion cavalry, which, given Philip is Greek for lover of horses, checks out. Lastly, Philip gave his soldiers a cartoonishly long 20-foot lance called the sarissa. Look at this thing. It's nuts. Whoa,
my God, that's some big spears, man. I wouldn't want to face that.
That was a radical move, but he ultimately didn't have all that much trouble in pulling it off. With all of northern Greece under his wing by 342, which already should have been setting off some serious alarm bells, but apparently didn't because screw that, that's effort, Philip proceeded to push down into central Greece.
Keep pushing. Let's fight. Let's take it all.
Several impassioned
Let's take it all.
The assembly to take some precaution against the seemingly unimpeded Macedonian advance. But again, being passed out on a couch doesn't exactly lend itself well to a coordinated military defense of one's homeland against as skilled a tactician as Philip. It wasn't until 338, when Philip had reached Boeotia, that Athens, Thebes, and friends realized that they had a serious problem on their hands. And by then, it was way too late. The last battle in Philip's conquest of Greece was fought at Chaeronea, and it's a fantastic example of just how clever.
Are you spreading yourself too thin, maybe?
On the defending side, Athens held the left, while Thebes and their famous sacred band held the right. Philip's strategy was predicated on the astute assessment that the Athenians are lousy hoplites, mostly because they're a bunch of philosophical nerds. As such, he placed his best soldiers on the left to meet the Thebans, under the command of his young son, Alexander the soon-to-be great. And this next bit was especially
gonna be great.
As I've described in this video here about ancient warfare, the general way of hoplite combat was for both lines to meet head-on. But Philip had Alexander the Oblique advance on an angle, refusing the left flank entirely. That way the Macedonians wouldn't have to actually fight the very skilled Thebans directly. And the plan worked brilliantly.
Pretty smart.
Philip broke the Athenians and split the defending line, and then Alexander the Swell charged his cavalry through, surrounding the Thebans and killing them all.
Oh my gosh. Kill them all?
He had lived in Thebes, and these soldiers were his childhood friends. So that's really brutal. That said,
that sounds a little brutal.
He knew what he did, and he explicitly said of the Thebans, "Let no one say that what these men did was dishonorable." And with that, the
nobody said it, did they?
And Greece was his. Well, not all of Greece. Sparta was so weak and irrelevant that Macedon never actually bothered conquering, which, considering Sparta's collective attitude towards weakness in all of its forms, must have stung something fierce. So, almost all of Greece.
Right.
In 336, Philip died, and Alexander the Shiny and New stepped into Greece.
Great.
Although, perhaps unsurprisingly, his ascension wasn't without incident. Many people saw this as an opportunity to revolt, and Alexander the suddenly preoccupied spent 2 years suppressing them. In many cases, he quieted revolts by leading his army into an open field and simply having them do marching drills in various formations and directions, generally showing off how disciplined they were as a fighting force. For the most part, the revolting parties put down their pitchforks at
just because of that?
How legit Alexander the Legit's army was. This is the only instance I'm aware of in which an armed revolt was suppressed by a marching band routine.
Right, that's crazy.
Of Hasselbal's army, he made some notable improvements on his father's work. His army was composed of many different types of units, and he organized his battle lines by their degrees of flexibility. The slowest
sounds like he's a 6-star general.
And he put the lighter and faster units towards the outside edge of his line. The idea was to keep his line supple and pivot on joints between units, so he could refuse.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense, actually.
And remember, his army is composed of light and heavy cavalry, light and heavy infantry, archers,
crazy long spear thingies.
So, with Greece consolidated, Alexander with the good hair decided that he absolutely, totally needed to invade Persia because I don't actually know.
Let's take it all. Why not?
It was revenge for the Persian Wars 150 years before.
Sure.
Which, for several reasons,
sure, why not?
Flimsy. But whatever the case, he crossed the Hellespont and got to work. His first big encounter came at the Battle of the Granicus River, where, incidentally, he was almost killed. There's definitely something to be said for how much of a morale boost a general gives when he fights in the front lines, but there are other things to be said for how potentially insanely
death can happen anytime.
Following the battle, Alexander the Thorough pursued the strategy of, I want every single Persian port on the Mediterranean flying a Greek flag, or so help me Zeus, I will set the ocean on fire. And he did. The strategy thing, not the ocean fire thing, that didn't happen. That'd be incredibly difficult logistically. Anyway,
it'd be kind of hard.
It saved him a little bit of trouble later on, but it was a brilliant call overall. He didn't leave anything to chance, and he didn't ever want to be snuck up on from behind. Moving on, the next famous battle happened when the Persians snuck up on him from behind. At the Battle of Issus,
that's ironic, right?
Himself arrived to deliver what he imagined would be a crushing defeat. The danger was that Alexander the Alright was advancing southward into the Levant, but Darius came from the north, which meant that the Macedonian line was mirrored from what it was supposed to be, so Alexander the Adaptable had to do a lot of thinking on the fly to pull out a win. Much as was the case at Granicus,
this is a lot of strategy, man. Wow.
He managed to rout Darius himself and defeat his army. And the problem was that since Darius was so sure of his chances, he brought his family along with him to watch his assumed triumph. So when things didn't quite go to plan,
this history's amazing.
He suddenly had his wife and children as hostages.
Ugh.
After this,
Not
Darius
cool.
knew
Not
that
cool.
he was in dire straits, and he sent Alexander the hostage taker a message. Hey, buddy, I see that you're cleaning up shop with my empire. I'm not thrilled, but I'm certainly impressed, so I'm willing to cut you a deal. You know,
ooh, deals.
You take everything west of the Euphrates River, and we'll call it even. How's that sound? Alexander the Hamilton's trusted commander Parmenion advised him, if I were Alexander, I'd take that offer. To which he replied, if I were Parmenion, so would I. Damn, Alexander, chill. Anyway, in his letter back to Darius, Alexander the Flammable said words to the effect,
oh my gosh.
You address me as your equal and try to
First off, who gave you permission to speak to me? Secondly, I own you. Thirdly, I'm going to destroy you. Wow. Wow.
On his merry way, sweeping up Levantine ports.
What a message back.
With the strategy of I want all of it up until he gets to the island port of Tyre. Now, Tyre argued that they were within their rights to pull a Switzerland on this one and stay neutral, but Alexander the Insistent said, no, not so fast.
The island kind of looks like a horse.
I own you, or I kill you. So take a pick. They picked screw you, so Alexander the thoroughly miffed started building a land bridge to the island to besiege it. Tyre destroyed the bridge, so Alexander the Persistent built another.
Really? Wow, not cool, guys.
Siege engines on it. He also launched ships that had siege engines on them, because why not? Dude loved his crazy engineers.
Wow.
So Tyre put huge stones in the water to block the siege ships, but then he sent out ships with cranes on them to move the stones to make the ships with siege engines
seriously?
on them wreck shop. It was ridiculous.
That's amazing.
It took like 8 friggin' months, and by the time Alexander the Absolutely Flawless finally broke through, he was furious. During his campaign,
he was pissed.
made a point to avoid raping or pillaging and showed much respect for the people whom he conquered. But this was pretty much the big bloody exception.
Ooh, I bet he's pissed.
He killed 10,000 men and enslaved 30,000
10,000 men? Oh my gosh.
That is very comprehensive.
Oh, it's kind of bloody.
After Alexander the Adventuresome swooped down into Egypt to clean up the last of Darius's western holdings. The Egyptians, who never much cared for the Persians in the first place after a little bit of sacred bull stabbing by the Persian king Cambyses, welcomed their new Macedonian overlords with open arms and crowned Alexander.
Yeah, or they're gonna kill you.
Now, you may rightly be wondering how exactly a Greek general can be a Greek general, the lord of all Asia, and a pharaoh of Egypt. And honestly, so was the Macedonian army. People were getting a little antsy about the tightrope he was walking. Greeks didn't like kings, but here was Alexander the Regal explicitly acting like one. In his lifetime, he didn't encounter any major crises or anything like that, but as time went on, it became increasingly clear that he couldn't be everything to everyone.
No, you're spreading yourself way too thin.
Empire respectfully. For all of Alexander the Feisty's hatred of Persia, he took a page right out of their book by treating his subjects so respectfully. Athens certainly didn't do that for their empire.
I own you.
Alexander the boy was very attentive to religious matters and how he presented himself. Back when he was in Anatolia, he diverted to the famous Gordian knot, as it was said that he who could undo the knot will go on to rule all of Asia. Whether the story goes that he pulls out the pin holding the knot or straight up cuts it in half,
set it on fire.
He wouldn't dare let such a perfect PR moment go to waste. Anyway, when he was in Egypt, he went out of his way to visit the oracle of the Siwa oasis in the desert. So out of his way, in fact, that the army he took with him almost got lost in said desert. Fortunately,
don't want to do that.
And Alexander,
it might dehydrate.
rough and irritating and gets everywhere, did meet with the oracle. And apparently, the oracle told him that he was actually the son of Zeus. What a twist! This was more fantastic for Alexander the demigod. But some of his army said, son of Zeus? Really? Come on, dude, we knew Philip.
It's a little stretch.
But soldiers aside,
just a little.
Underwood was playing the politics rather well, both for the benefit of himself and his blooming empire. With the entire eastern Mediterranean squared away, Alexander
I'm not doing you. Come at me.
his attention back to the heartland of Persia, and met Darius for the super epic ultimate showdown of ultimate destiny at the Battle of Gaugamela. So, before the battle, Alexander the Elfide put his...
Alright, what's this dork up to?
In general, the Macedonians had fantastic recon by the standards of the time, partly because Alexander the Ample wasn't afraid to split up his army, having fast stuff like cavalry go off really quickly while the lame, slow human people waddled along their merry way. Back to recon, the three questions were always
location, numbers,
how
and
many
attempt.
Are there, and what are they doing? In advance of Gaugamela, the answers were Gaugamela, about 100,000-ish, and they're planning to envelop you. Then Alexander the Tactically Gifted proceeded to draw his battle plan specifically around being enveloped. Cue the dramatic music.
Wow. This is crazy. He's done a lot in his lifetime, conquered a lot. Dude, what's up with this music? No idea, it's really thematical and courageous.
The Macedonian line turning up to 11 on the extremometer refused both the left and the right flanks, and the javelineers and archers cleaned up against the Persian chariots when they tried to close it. But then, just as the Greek center put Darius to flight, again, I might add, the Persians broke through Alexander the Decent's line and started giving his left flank some serious problems. Alexander the Alexandrist had a choice on his hands. If he chased Darius, he could kill him instantly and finally claim all of Persia for himself.
Sounds good.
If he didn't support his left flank, there was a chance Persia could crush his entire army right there.
That's not cool.
Fortunately, good judgment prevailed, and Alexander the A-OK returned to his line to stop his army from getting unceremoniously murdered.
Yeah, we don't need to get slaughtered.
Survived, yeah, but the battle was won. By this point, the writing was on the wall, or on the forehead, I guess if we're going back to that knob metaphor thing, and more Persian satraps, governors basically, capitulated to Macedon. Also, as for the whole Darius loose end thing, while Alexander the Eastbound had been chasing the poor guy all over Persia, one satrap, Bessus, betrayed Darius and assassinated him.
Oh my gosh.
Named was outraged for
poor Darius.
But given that he now owned most of Persia and riches beyond what any Greek could even imagine, I'd venture to say he probably wasn't too torn up about it. Not content to live well enough alone, he pushed east because... why not?
Why not? Let's just conquer it all.
Before his army said, okay, Alex, buddy, we've been at this for like 6 straight years. Can we please go home now? And Alexander the Sculpt Me Pretty or I'll Kill You said, fine. But after we go home, we're going to circumnavigate Africa. Okay? Deal? Cool? Cool? Alright, let's go. By this point, Alexander the looking more Persian by the day
He is
had taken a
conquering
Persian wife
all,
and married
dude.
off 90 of his
All.
generals to Persian wives as well. He was also making people bow before him, which
It's not
kind
cool.
of weirded out the Greeks a little bit because, again, not the biggest fans of kings.
Probably
to wrap
not.
up, Alexander the still basically kind of a teenager led his army back through southern Persia, casually losing most of it, and posted up in Babylon for some post-campaign festivities, whereupon he proceeded to die of either a fever, alcohol poisoning, or poisoning. Jury's out on that one. Alexander the Dead left a stupidly big empire
Probably
behind him.
poison.
And remember how there was all kinds of pitchforky, revolty business when Philip died? Well, second verse, same as the first, the empire was up for grabs. The difference was that there wasn't even an obvious successor this time, and in the ensuing free-for-all, the empire split up into a billion different pieces led by various Macedonian generals.
Crumbled.
The ones who we especially care about are Ptolemy, who took over Egypt, and Seleucus, whose empire spanned much of the old Persian Empire. The Seleucid Empire reached from Mesopotamia to the Indus Valley and briefly poked up into Anatolia, but mostly just decayed.
He just conquered all, and then he got poisoned, I'm sure.
I encourage you to first listen to me lose my mind in this podcast about the horrendous Ptolemaic family tree, and just in general, pick up a book and start reading some fun stuff about the Hellenistic world.
Probably should.
It is a rather entertaining
Probably
period
should.
of history, but it is also an absolute mess to keep track of, with honestly not a whole lot of super consequential stuff going on. Most people just acknowledge that it exists and then immediately jump over to the Roman Punic Wars, which were going on at the same time and were objectively much more eventful. To grossly oversimplify, the Hellenistic period
200
was
later is
a right
actually on the
mess,
list.
with civil war, squabbling over power, and all sorts
I
of
bet that was a
happening
big
about
mess
until Rome
after he
steamrolled the
died,
ball into the
like-
Republic. And since I've got nowhere to go for the next minute or so, I'll give my 2 drachmas on this whole The Great.
Alright, let's hear it.
Gordon Ramsay would be outraged because it is just so bland. What kind of name is that? Read any page out of Homer and it's jam-packed with specific and evocative epithets to describe people. Each character has no less than 5 apiece, so it's inexcusable
That's crazy.
that Alexander,
5.
arguably the most consequential Greek who ever lived, has one lame title. Now, if I had my way,
Alexander?
I'd give him a much more interesting and informative name.
What would it be?
In Greek, something like Alexander Promachos or Alexander Aristos would instantly be a step above
Alexander
his
the
Greek
Excellent.
title of
The word in
Megas.
Greek is
See?
loaded in
That's
military
just
context.
dull. In English, even something as simple as Alexander the
The
Conqueror
Conqueror.
or Alexander the Horseman are a step up, because they're at least a little more specific to it.
Right.
Anything
Then
is
great.
better than
The Great.
Great. It's an example of what's so wrong with our abuse of hyperbole. A name that's supposed to mean everything ends up meaning absolutely nothing. Anyway, that's my spiel. I hope you've had a great time
Yes.
learning about Alexander the
Thank you. Lots of learning and teaching and history. Thank you very much, for recommending this. Lots of history. So I'm guessing this channel is a bunch of history on a bunch of different dudes. Women too, probably. But anyway, thank you very much. Alexander was a great, and he deserves a better name than that because he conquered a lot. Probably killed a lot of innocent people though, so probably not such a good dude. Probably shouldn't have had people bowing down to him, stuff like that. I'm not really into that, but he conquered a lot of land, he conquered a lot of people, and yeah, I'm glad I didn't live over there because I wouldn't want to be beheaded by him. But anyway, thank you for recommending this. The link will be below. Check it out, subscribe, like, comment. You can tell he puts a lot of thought and a lot of work into his videos, so that's awesome. Go ahead and hit my subscribe button if you want, like, share, comment. Next time you choose a reaction, you should choose a Max reaction. Peace.